Neil Jacobs, CEO of Six Senses Group. It's great to have you with me today. Thank you for joining me and thanks for taking the time.
Pleasure. Always nice to talk to you.
Now, Six Senses Southern Dunes in KSA is going to be the first property to officially open as part of the Red Sea project. That must really give you a sense of pride. Tell me a little bit about this project and how you feel about it.
Well, a lot of pride and a lot of pressure, that's for sure, as being the first hotel to open. I mean, we're super excited about what's happening in the kingdom generally, and with Red Sea being the first to open. I think the world is kind of waiting to see what actually happens there. What I love about our project is that even though we're in the Red Sea development, we're actually not on the water, and I think that's going to be a huge point of differentiation for us, in as much as that we have almost a desert, a really beautiful, interesting desert kind of camp. Camp not really because it's tented, but it is out in the desert. The design, the architecture really reflects where it is and the context of where it is. It's quite contemporary. It's built in a way that you certainly know where you are, but it's not your typical, it's not exactly what you would expect from kind of a desert product. Now, I think that's probably the case with much of what is going on at Red Sea, in as much as all of the consultants and the intention of the owners and developers is very modern. I mean, you look at what Foster is doing, just with the airport there. It's going to be an extraordinary piece of architecture that again reflects where that you are, but with a kind of a new vocabulary. So we're very excited about it. We're hopeful that we will be open before the end of the year. That's certainly the goal. And as we speak, the team, many of the team have been hired. I mean, certainly all of management and all of department heads are in place and working. I was there maybe 90 days ago or so, and was really impressed with what I saw. But with what I saw generally, and not having been in Saudi since prior to COVID, just to kind of see the attitude and experience the attitude of the young Saudis, and how proud they are of what's going on in the country, and enthusiastic about all the development that's happening there. It was really, really refreshing, and definitely you saw a difference on the ground to maybe what was happening a few years ago, and that was super encouraging. So that's a few answers to one question.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that as well with the young Saudis and the Saudis.
Yeah.
The welcome and the attitude is really amazing compared also to other countries in the region. I think Saudi, there's a buzz there, not only because of what's happening in tourism, but in general. And I think that really,
yes,
you feel that when you're there. Now, who are the partners in this project? I know you've got Foster as the designers. Who are the key partners?
That's a good question. Obviously, all the Red Sea people. We have an interior designer out of London. Her name is Inga. Now you're going to ask me the name of the company, which I'll have to tell you about a bit later. I've just known her for years, and whichever company she's owning at the time, I tend to work with. But London-based interior designers who have really been amazing at kind of interpreting this Saudi texture, but in a very different more contemporary way. Plus with Six Senses, it's really important as the material, because of our position around sustainability. The materials that are used, provenance of materials, non-toxic when it comes to fabrics and paint and all of that. We have a pretty robust set of design standards around types of materials that are permissible in any one of our properties. So not every interior design group are that sensitive to that. So to find with Inga, we know she is.
And of course the the external design is very original, which is, I guess, normal Six Senses, because it always is. But I think it's striking, and it's amazing how it fits into the landscape, into the countryside.
Yeah, well, that's very important to us. We don't want it to be ever come across as pastiche, or at all Disney-like. It's kind of quite easy to fall into that vernacular when you go to places like this. And so it was important that it be striking, it reflect place and context, but is executed in a different way to perhaps what is expected. So they've managed to achieve that without giving too much away. We want all the listeners to go take a look, right?
Now, you were talking about sustainability and the internal aspects. And I know this is something which is very dear to your heart. We've spoken about it before. What other elements make this, a really sustainable project? Of course, it's key to the Red Sea project as well. Everything has to be sustainable. What aspects are there that really stand out?
I mean, alternative sources of energy, solar, how we handle that. I mean, when we look at sustainability, and we've had this conversation before, we look at it from the built environment, the operating environment, and then the outreach to community and how we are engaged in local communities. So, I've already talked about materials from an operating perspective. Things that we've been doing for nearly 30 years, which is as long as Six Senses is virtually 30 years old. But in terms of no plastic, no amenity bottles, making our own water, not flying in Perrier, San Pellegrino, so worrying about carbon footprint in terms of what we offer there. I think I've said that 0.5% of our revenue is contractually allocated to sustainable activities outside of the hotel. So often they're community project related, and that's just something that we do in every single jurisdiction where we function. So we have, every hotel has a director of sustainability, which is you don't usually find in most hotel org charts. And this person covers the every single department. So they are the sustainability police, if you like, for the whole development for us. And as I say, sit on the executive committee of the hotel and have a really, really important role, because alongside the F&B director or the rooms director and the GM and so on. So that keeps us going. We have something called an Earth Lab, which showcases for our guests a lot of the activities. For years, in the beginning of the company, we did all of this, but for some reason or other, we never talked about it. we just did it. It almost felt back then as though, it's like, well, you're bragging, when you do that. So we just did it, and we were very low key about it. That changed, I guess, when I was part of the phase two of the last buyers of the company. I said, no, guys, we need to talk about it. We need to show people what we're doing and set an example. It's not about bragging at all. So with our Earth Lab, we're able to showcase much of the sustainable activities that take place on a day-to-day basis. And I think the guests find it really interesting as well today to see exactly what we are doing, how we recycle, how we repurpose materials, whether it's timbers or what we do with waste, how we're tracking energy consumption and what we're doing there, and so on and so forth. So that's all the role of this director of sustainability that exists in, as I say, in every hotel.
Now, this is, you're still in the final construction phase. It's a resort in the middle of the desert, in the middle of basically nowhere. I mean, in the middle of Saudi Arabia, northern Saudi Arabia. What have been the main issues, the main sort of challenges in getting this together? It must have been extremely difficult.
Well, it is extremely difficult, and I think that question is better focused on the developers, because they're the ones that have been building it. We haven't been building it. We've been there, we've been advising, we've been helping, we've been programming, but it hasn't been our responsibility to build it. So from a development perspective, I mean, John Pagano, who runs Red Sea Company, who has an amazing construction background, he's your man. And just the logistics, as you're pointing out, and in being out there in the desert and getting materials there, and manpower and looking after manpower, housing of all the construction workers, and so on and so forth, is a monument, has been a monumental task. I mean, we're one of, I don't know, I mean, the first phase of hotels there will be three or four hotels will be the first of that first group of hotels. But I mean, they are rocking and rolling, and over time you'll have 20 or so hotels there, if not more, by the time it's rolled out. And credit to the developers in terms of what they're doing for housing of all the employees. I mean, they've created a city, because with all those hotels, plus residential, plus retail, plus an airport, and so on, you're going to need thousands of people. And that community is well under construction and will be ready relatively soon. And that's where all the employees are going to live. And it's going to be as close to real life as it possibly can be, because the employee housing will have everything there that you can possibly need, right? So that's a fantastic piece of the development.
Of course, the other project you have there is the Amala project, which is underway. What stage is that at now, and how's that coming along?
Well, actually, that was the first project we signed in Saudi. And it was moving well. Then it slowed down a bit when COVID happened. And then it was given to John Pagano and the Red Sea Group to take it over. I mean, which I think was a good decision, because so much was being duplicated that it didn't really make sense. So you have two of these giga projects that now sit under the Red Sea Company. And this one for us is indeed on the ocean. So what we like about Amala is the topography is super interesting. There's a huge mesa plateau. So, it's up and down. We're on the water. We're in a place called Triple Bay, which is an extraordinary cove. And what I love is that the counterpoint between what we're doing at the Red Sea and what we're doing at Amala they're both completely different, completely different design, completely different location for us within the Amala site. And so there will be options there, and I suspect we will find people staying in both because the experience will be quite different.
And of course, this is all centered on wellness, of course, as are all Six Senses properties. I guess the wellness aspect of both the properties is going to be singular. It's going to be very different to what we might find elsewhere.
Well, I mean, there'll be some crossover between the two because certain things you need to have, and there's certain Six Senses touch points. But certainly at Amala, that's got as a project, there's probably more of a wellness focus than perhaps there is at Red Sea. Some of the brands that are going into Amala, are very well-known wellness brands. But, we will do what we do. We'll do our longevity. We'll do our integrated wellness programs. We do with our biomarker testing. We'll do our sleep programs. We'll do our nutrition programs, Eat with Six Senses, Sleep with Six Senses. We'll have all our kids programming, which is very wellness driven. It's called Grow with Six Senses. So those touch points will exist, yet not every Six Senses is the same because, again, we embrace, the healing arts of the countries where, or the jurisdictions, locations where we find ourselves. And, there's some good history and healing that goes on in the Middle East, and we will highlight a lot of that in all of our projects that we have going in the kingdom.
Now, Saudi Arabia is forging ahead in terms of tourism development, and there are announcements every day of new properties opening. What looks like being in the pipeline for the future? You've got 2 properties now. Are there other properties under discussion at the moment?
Yes. I mean, we have signed. We will be in Diriyah Gate, closer to Riyadh, right? So again, a completely different experience, spread over a very, very large landscape.
Is that something that's been announced already, or is that sort of?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it has. It has. And really, really special. And I don't think, yeah, we have. I don't think we've announced the 4th one yet, but we have a 4th project. So at the moment, that's what we have in the bag. Can we do more? We probably could do more. I mean, I think I would like to be in Jeddah. We don't have anything that we're looking at as yet, but I think that's the place I would like to be. And that's probably enough, right? If we end up with 4 or 5 projects, I think that will be the most we have in any one country anywhere. Exactly. Well, we have 5.
It's very big.
We have
it's
5.
Very big, isn't it? So,
yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, whereabouts is the 4th property? Do we have an idea of where that?
Yeah, no, I can't. I'm not sure. I should. I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Now, of course, working with the Red Sea Project, John Pagano, and the Saudi authorities in general, who are very forward-thinking. How's it been working with, well, I guess with the Saudi authorities and in Saudi Arabia in general?
So far, so good. Very positive. I mean, they're very, very dedicated. They are on a mission to create a tourism industry. It's unprecedented anywhere in the world, in my view, as to what is being done in the country, and they're determined that this will become a world-class destination in the Middle East, with a, which is super. I mean, A, nobody else could do it. B, it's in a country that has such a strong culture and history in the Arab world that will be showcased alongside an absolute commitment, as we just said, to wellness and sustainability, and both of which are hugely important. Wellness, particularly so in the Middle East, where there's quite a lot of unwellness going on in the Middle East. If you look at heart disease, diabetes, and so on. So I mean, the focus on this and lifestyle in general is pretty important for the country, and the government and the powers that be in the kingdom recognize that, and hence this push to have this agenda, right, that everyone is taking hugely seriously.
Just finally, how are you working with trade partners, for example, with travel advisors and so on these projects? How are you promoting these projects, and what's the feedback been like so far from them?
Well, we obviously we love the trade. We function at the high end of our business, and so work a lot with the high end consortiums, the virtuosos of the world, and the high end travel agents globally, and and wholesalers as well. So the trade is extremely important to who we are. I think the world is waiting to see. There's been so much conversation around what is being built, and it's very high profile. And I think that probably what's going to happen in the beginning is, the first year or so, is you're going to get a huge amount of domestic business, not just Saudi, but regional. Certainly Saudi to start with, regional business that will come in right from the beginning. And I think, the real international aspect to this may take a little bit longer. I think people are, want to see. There'll be some countries that will, people will come immediately. But I think, if we look at a sequence, it'll be domestic, regional, and then global that comes in. But we don't believe it's going to take that long. We think
I guess it's word of mouth as well, isn't it? Because one thing I've noticed is that everybody who goes to Saudi Arabia comes back talking about the welcome that you receive, the warmness of the people, and I know a lot of countries say that, but it's in Saudi Arabia, I think it's really very true.
Yeah, I think so too. And all of that is actually very heartwarming. Going back to what I said at the beginning of our chat here, I was blown away by that sense of hospitality that seemed to be very natural and very natural, authentic, and real, and that the young folk that are certainly that I met working in our properties and experiencing in other properties that I stayed at, they're just so excited about what's happening in the country, and that comes across as very genuine and unpackaged, so to speak. And let's hope that we can all manage to keep that, encourage that feeling, and that it doesn't change, because that's true hospitality, actually.
Certainly is. Neil, thanks very much for taking the time.
You're welcome. All the best.